Hello everyone, welcome back to Glitz and Glitter. So Barbara has given me another challenge and she wants me to incorporate the XTool. But before I get to that, I have a little bit of gifts that came in the mail yesterday. Look at this, I think it's a handmade card. Handwritten, of course. Thank you so much. So this came from the woman who I made those beach elks for. And she sent me some of her projects that she's good at. So she makes the dichroic glass. So she sent me a really pretty charm. Look at that. It is gorgeous. Thank you. And she also makes these shells, which I thought were amazing. And I think those are magnets on the back, or maybe they're a little stand, but look at they stand. They're beautiful. She decoupages them and she sells them in shows. So look at that beautiful work. I really, really appreciate the gifts. Thank you so much. I also got a second box from Karen, and she sent a couple of things. She knows the way to my heart, so she sent me two of these. One says blessed and one says faith. Love them. I have one of these, but I've used it a lot, so it's good that I have another one. And then she knows the way to Don's heart. So she sent 12 gauge shotgun, two of them, and one of these, which I actually have this in fondant because I made him a cake one year with guns all over it. And then she also sent me some more charms, which I'm happy that there's gold in some of these because I don't have a lot of gold. And a little bit of star glitter. Look at that holographic glitter. So thank you guys so much. It's always such a surprise when boxes show up at my door, and I was not expecting them. It's almost like Christmas every other day around here. So back to the board. I'm doing two things to it, and I couldn't decide which order to do them in, but I finally decided. So she wants the Irish blessing, which is quite long. It's going to take up most of the board, engraved onto the board. And since it has a handle, we're also going to pour some resin in like a marbling form, I'm just thinking in my head how I'm doing this because I haven't figured it completely out. So then I was like, do I do the resin first and then fit the blessing on, or do I do the blessing first and fit the resin on? I decided to engrave the blessing because if I don't get the blessing engraved good, like if it's crooked or something for whatever reason, I didn't get it right in the XTool, then I didn't waste all that time and effort on the resin. So that's why I'm going to do that. So this picture here is a picture of Creative Fabrica where I got the blessing off of. Or I could have just made it on the XTool software if I wanted to, but they did such a good job with fonts and all the extra goodies around it that I decided to go ahead and use the one from Creative Fabrica. So I'm going to put that into my XTool and get it sized, put this in the XTool and get it sized on here via the cameras that are in there. And we're going to start engraving this. So let me get this done first, and then we're going to grab some colors. ready to pour, you guys. I've got 4 ounces mixed up. The engraving came out perfect. I covered it with paper just in case I dripped. I'm not going to go all the way to the tape because it could possibly go under the tape, so I'm going to try to keep it here and up here. So she wanted white, green, and gold, of course, colors of... I'm just going to dump the rest of my white in. This is all I have left of this Pearl X micro pearl. And what I'm gonna do a little different on this board than I did on the last board that I did. I'm just going to pour the white on everywhere, and then I'm going to just drizzle over the green and the gold over the white, so it will all stretch together. Whether it's a good idea or not, I'm not sure. It's the first time I'm gonna do it, but I think it'll be good. Instead of pouring a little here, a little there, I mean, in the end, it's all probably the same. I just want to get this mixed up. You don't have to put this through a vacuum chamber because it's going to be poured so thinly, and I'm going to torch the bubbles out. Since there's no mold to worry about, we'll get the torch out today. This is the greenest green I can find that looks like the flag. So we're going to mix a little bit of this up. It's called Spring Green by Let's Resin. And then I pulled out some gold mica powder. Not the metallic, like metallic. This is just gold colored mica powder because the metallics would spread and they wouldn't look right, and I didn't want to chance it. Since the engraving is perfect, I need this to be perfect. So everything's taped up on the back. I cut the hole out so it could drip through. And I do end up saving all the drippings because there's a lot that's going to drip on the table. I will scrape it up and put it into something, and it'll probably be a marbled whatever. Not a perfect marble, but you know what I mean. This, I just have a tiny little bit here because I don't need a lot of gold. And this is actually probably too much too. But that's okay because we will use it on something. And I will probably not be talking because I'm going to concentrate, so I'm not ignoring you guys. But when orders are involved, I can't look for saves because I was rambling on about whatever. Okay. That looks good. So let's see if my idea works. Let me move this. It is going to make a mess. So if you try this, I recommend getting everything off your table. And I am going to just rub it down the sides so it does flow over the sides. And I need to do it the opposite way. I'm going to try to keep it as like away from that tape. I really don't want it going under the tape. Now, tabletop resin is the proper resin to use for this particular thing because it will gel up nice and thick and quickly. I don't need to pour all of it on. I didn't know how much to make. So, and I do want kind of a, not a straight line, but like a wavy line without hitting the tape somehow. And then I'm going to coax it over the edge so it'll flow. And that way the green and the gold will flow with it. And this is kind of similar how I did some countertops in my room here. And it came out really good. If you haven't seen that, I didn't have a video on how I did it. That was pre-YouTube days. But I did have a video on the finished product prior to putting everything on top of my counters. So You can get that actually at the end of every video. Not every video, but most videos show that room, and those are actually poured resin countertops. All right, so what I think, oh man, I mixed up way too much. Maybe I'll pour, but just lines. I don't want too crazy too much. Kind of like that, but I'm gonna grab my heat gun and move it around a little bit. And it's going to move and change and all that good stuff while it sits. I just want thin lines of the gold, nothing dramatic. I'm gonna just pull some off. That'll give it a little bit of a marbled look in some of these areas. I'm just gonna let that sit for a minute and see what happens and see if I want to change it. So I'm just watching it move and I'm torching it, and I think I'll torch it again. And adding here and there. Now I am wiping the edge. It's not wanting to stick perfectly, and it's pretty much done running already. It's only been a couple of minutes. So since it doesn't want to be perfectly, I'm just going to keep it rubbed down. It'll have some resin on there, but I'd rather not look at drips and just keep it rubbed down. Now I did scrape the table and I stuck it in a little bare mold, but this is tabletop resin, so it could possibly flash cure in there. And I'm just kind of watching it and going over with colors as I need to, as they blend. I'm adding white, like see these spots here. And I'm just gonna sit and babysit it for a while until I know that it's not moving anymore. And then we'll let it cure and you will see the outcome in just a second. Okay, so it's the next day, and when I uncovered it, so I'm gonna tell you what happened. As you can see, it shrunk here, gave me all kinds of spots. So there's two things I did not do to this, or one thing I didn't do, one thing I do. It'll all make sense in a second. So when we make charcuterie boards, One, we always sand them down before we pour resin on them. I did not sand this down, so the oils that came in the board at the store are what caused all this. The second thing that I did that I don't usually ever do on a charcuterie board is I turned the heat mat on because it's sitting on here. I covered it up and I was like, oh, maybe I can get it cured quicker. Don't do that. Let it cure naturally. That's what I'm going to do this time. So I've mixed up 3 ounces this time, same thing, tabletop resin. The only difference I did is I pulled out a different gold. I want to see what this one looks like. So, I mean, just like a charcuterie board, when you're working with wood and you don't know what's in there, sometimes we have to cover them 2, 3, 4 times if we're, not lucky. So I've already sanded all of this down. I used an 80 grit sanding block. You can use 80, 120. I wouldn't go higher than 120. That's what we usually use on the other boards, like the river boards. But I had 80 sitting here, so that's what I did. So I sanded everything down. Hopefully this resin will stick a little bit better. I'm not going to turn the heat mat on, and I'm just going to let it cure naturally. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing I did before. I did use a different white, but there's really no big deal in that because white is really white. So I'm just going to start all over again and cover up what we just did. That's why, since I had this second chance and possibly a third, I wanted to try this other gold and see what happens. So hopefully the resin will stick a little bit better to the sanded areas. And I don't want it to go again down by the tape if I can help it. And when I turn the heat mat on, it always lowers the viscosity of the resin before it cures it. So I'm pretty sure between the oil in the wood and lowering the viscosity, that's why it all drained off. Not all, but certain parts drained off. So it was a good teaching moment. I was just going to redo it and be like, okay, people, I had to do it twice, but I figured if you're going to try this and you don't understand what's going on, I better come back and show you. So, yeah, that's why. I just want to get it down all the sides, see if it'll stick while it drains. Trying not to get my hands dirty already, but I guess I'm going to because it's not wanting to go over the side all by itself. Yeah, it dawned on me the first time, right as I was like mixing the resin, I'm like, oh, I didn't sand it, but it should be okay. And it wasn't. Because they do oil these boards for you before you buy them. So I have no clue what kind of product is on here. But let's just hope I sanded right through it. All right, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit for you because you've already seen me do this once, so I don't want to bore you to death. So here we go. So just wanted to check back. It's been like 30 minutes. I have not left its side, and basically I'm scraping up off of the board what I didn't put in a few extras, and I'm just going over these edges here and letting it run down and drip, and it's basically done dripping. and it's just gonna fall over. So I'm just reusing what's on here and going over these edges. So you might want to just stand next to it because there's a lot of curved, if you have a lot of curved edges like this one does. I'm just drawing around it and letting it flow down, and it's basically pretty much done moving. So now I'm just gonna leave it be and let it cure naturally. Okay, ladies and gents, you ready to wrap this one up? So I got all the tape off. I use a heat gun, and it just softens the resin around it, so you're not ripping off resin that's actually on the board. So here's the extras. I just threw them into molds that were near me, and I did a bunch of water ripple stars. Those are these 4. I didn't really do anything to them. I didn't make them into keychains. I'm just going to leave them as they are. And then I had enough to make 2 turtles. Can you tell? One batch from the other. Pretty cool, but nice and sparkly. And then this bear was laying around. I never finished it from another day. So I just glued on a little rubber ducky, put a bow in her hair and a bow on her chin, and some rhinestones in her ears. So there's the one from another day, and then this is from this one. So I stuck a rose in her hand. I put a little halo on her head and a bow on her back. So those are those. Let me move them out of the way and we will finish up the board. You'll get to see the front. I'm sure you've been waiting to see it. And it came out beautiful. Look at that. It stayed in place. I did stand here, like I said, 30, 45 minutes until it stopped dripping completely. And I just kept dripping it down these edges on this inner edge so it's got a coating on there. But what do you think? How do you like the marbling? I really like this gold better than the other gold, so I'm kind of glad I changed to the metallic. And then here is the engraving. Now I did go over this really quickly with a sanding block. Not really to sand it, just to smooth it down. And then I pulled out my Odie's oil. And I'm just going to oil the surface before I give it to her. If I can open this. There we go. You just stir it up, and you need very little of this stuff. It smells amazing. When she opens the box, she's going to be smelling this. Let me grab a paper towel. I'm just going to put some on a paper towel. Not a whole lot. Like I said, you don't need much of this stuff. And then what you do is you rub it in, and then you let it sit for maybe half an hour, an hour. And then go back and rub the remaining off. Although this is going right into the board, so there's probably not going to be anything to rub off. So this one is just sucking it up. I don't know if they did anything to this board, but they must have done something because the resin wasn't staying. So there's got to be some kind of oil on it, or maybe it's the stain that they used. I don't know. So make sure if you do a board, do not forget to sand it down first. Don't be like me. And that's it. I'm gonna get you guys some pictures, and I will finish the back. I have some sanding to do on the back to get some of the resin off, but I will do that another day. I don't want to do it the day it's cured. I'll do it in a couple of days when this is fully cured and I don't have any chance of messing it up. And that's it. That's all we have to do. I will get you some pictures. And you can oil boards whenever you need to. So Barbara, if you're watching, oil is necessary. You can use butcher block oil. You do not have to buy Odie's oil. It's kind of expensive just to oil a board every once in a while. So get some butcher block oil. It'll do the same thing. This is just a little bit better quality. And it smells good. There we go, guys. I think it's gorgeous. Came out great. The colors that she wanted. All right, well, let me find something fun to do tomorrow, and I will see you then, everyone. Have a blessed day. Bye.